In this independent lesson, we're going to learn how to use particle view to take a particle flow and turn it into a series of exploding particles to make the illusion of fireworks. We use a little bit of gravity, wind, alter some materials, use video post, and pretty much in Max, what you're going to see when I hit play here, we'll go into camera view, is these various particles that are shooting off and exploding, and then trails of particles are following them. The final product will look something like this. It's going to be different because of the colors you use. But again, this has video post on it, and it's just on a black background. And you can actually go, and once you've created your fireworks, add multiple particle systems and make it last longer. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and close this, and let's start with a brand new scene. Now the video here is going to go step by step through the process of making the fireworks, but in all honesty, following the visual flow chart that I've supplied to you, along with the written study guide, between this video and those guides, you should have no problem getting this to work. And then it'll be up to you to take it to the next step, to add the fireworks into a scene that may be you put in the back of your roller coaster or your logo or something like that. We're going to begin by extending our timeline to 500. So we come to time configuration, open up the dialog box here, and we'll go with 500. That's the number I used. You could go longer, but you'll have to expand the amount of fireworks over time. Next, we're going to set up our scene by adding in gravity. We're going to create space warps, and under forces you'll see gravity. I'm just going to go in the top view, click and drag. Remember, no matter where the icon is, gravity is gravity. It's invisible to the render. While we have gravity open, we're going to tone down the strength. We're just going to put a 0.1 in here. We don't need a lot of strength, and we're going to leave it at planar. And we'll be linking our particle system to this gravity here shortly. So you can just leave it at gravity 01, since that's the only one we're using. We also want to add some wind. Now when you put the wind in, it doesn't matter wherever you drag. What we want to do is we want to angle it in towards the gravity, and then in the front view we want to kick it up to about 45-degree angle. The fireworks are going to be coming up through here. I know you see the arrow pointing down. That's okay, because that's gravity. But we're going to be shooting them up this way. While you have wind open, we're going to keep the strength at 0.0. We don't want any strength force. What we do want is turbulence. And our turbulence is going to be 0.05. So just a little bit of turbulence is all we need. We'll leave that at planar. Again, you can leave wind 001 because it's the only wind icon we will be using in this scene. Finally, we're going to go ahead and start setting up our materials before we've brought the particle in. And the reason why is because our particle system will be asking for what materials we'll be using. Open up the material editor and choose an empty slot. Now make sure that you're set to blend. You should be by default. We're going to open up the maps rollout. Now don't worry about the color at this point, because we're going to use, for diffuse color, click the word none, and we're going to use one of the options we have here in the material map browser. And pretty much what that's going to be is gradient. And the reason why we're using gradient is we can get more than one color in our fireworks. And each particle system you use can be a different set of colors. So you can do like as many colors as you want. Now keep in mind, the more particles you have, the more you're willing to crash. Every material can be made the same way. So we'll just walk through. We'll do one material for now, and then we can come in, duplicate it, and just change the colors to make another one later on. So we're going to start off by making sure under coordinates it says texture. And where it says explicit map channel, we're going to change that from to planar from object XYZ. The next thing we want to do is come down here to the three colors. You'll notice that we got black, gray, and white, and those would not make very attractive fireworks. Let's go ahead and pick a color. I'm going to go with the red there. Maybe make it a little bit more dark there. Okay. My next color I'm going to go with, we'll do like a yellow. And then last but not least, I think I'm going to do like an orange. Now I do suggest trying to keep the color somewhat within the same range, but it's your fireworks. You'll be able to go ahead and do as you please. We also want to make sure that here in the material where it says, I think we'll go ahead and we'll just leave. Yeah, you can do linear or radial. I think that's not gonna really affect. You can try them both. So let's hit OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump back out to the maps, and that's the diffuse color. We're going to grab that map that we just created and drag it down to opacity and hit instance and hit OK. Alright, there we go. We have a material that's ready to be used, and feel free, by default it says L1 default, you could put red fireworks. Now again, you can use any color you want and make these changes later on. But our material is set. I'm going to go ahead and close Material Editor. In this next part of the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a brief introduction to how the particle view works. I'm not going to by all means take every step of the way because we'd be probably watching a video for the next hour. What I'm going to do is just get you to become familiar with it, and then what we'll do is I'll give you some time to go in and look at it. Then I'll do a brief review of the completed project step by step, just so you can verify all the settings. But what you're really going to do is just once you get comfortable with particle flow is pull out the chart and just start dropping the icons in and use the additional study guide to set all the parameters for that. So to begin, in any random scene, just for practice, create standard. You come down the list, you find particle systems. PF source is a particle flow source. I'm just going to click and drag the icon in the top view. Notice the arrow is pointing down to the ground. That's what we want for this project because we're going to set it to be reversed and flow upwards. Now, if you hit modify, like most particle systems, you have a lot of different options here. We don't have a lot because particle flow requires the use of particle view. So I select the particle view icon. That opens up this particle view. Now we can adjust windows. You can maximize this for video purposes. I think what I'm doing is just going to go ahead and show you how to manipulate some of these things. This is a node-based system here in which we will be dragging sections, different operations into different events. By default, we have all of these events already set from your chart. You'll notice that there's a heck of a lot more we need to add. Each icon here represents a different operation. To drop any event in, for instance, if I'm looking at the chart, we're missing an age test. I can come down to the word age test, drag that up, and just drop it in the node system wherever I want it. Right under here, the blue line, I let it go. It's in there. So I can do that. If I want to create a new event, such as event 2, which starts with spawn, I can grab any of those icons and just drag it out here in the middle of the system. And that's what we get. Okay, is it just starts a new event. To rename an event, you can just right click on it and hit rename. You can also do that with any of the icon names. For the study guide purpose, I tried to keep all the actions in the event to have the same last number, 0102. And I did that for simplification purposes. You really don't need to do it that way unless you're following around exactly step by step. Down here at the bottom, when you select an action, it tells you what that's going to do. Okay, there's all kind of different operation settings here, and we'll use maybe about 10 of them, I think. To make any of these changes, you'll notice in parentheses after each operation, there's a set of parentheses, and you'll notice from your study guide flowchart that not all of these are correct. You look at birth, for instance. This one here is a 0 to 30 T200, where my chart is saying 25-325 T10. You're probably like, well, what is that? Well, that is the settings over here to the right. So anytime, and I'll slide this over here to give you an idea of what's going on. Anytime you select on an action, its parameters show up to the right, and that's where my second study guide comes in. Is I show you each event, each icon, and the various settings you will need to change in there. So I'll give you an example. We go to birth. I have on my sheet a birth of 25, a stop of 325, and the amount is going to equal 10. And you'll notice now that inside the particle view node system, that matches our chart. So you just go down to each icon, and that's what I'm going to do in the second video here. Is I'm going to come back in once with the completed project, click on each one, and give you a couple seconds to match yours with mine. One other thing, when you're done creating your various events, to connect one event to another, you hover your mouse over top of the little icon here, and then you just drag to the next one. Release, you drag to the circle. That's sort of like the receiving end. And now that links, when it hits age test, it'll send it to event 2 and then run that series of operations. One other trick that I like to show you that's important here, there is an instance where you're going to have to add what we call a material dynamic. When you drag material dynamic in, and I know this isn't the right location, but you select material dynamic, it's going to ask for a material. This here, this button here, it says none, will take you out to the map browser, and you'll be able to search down at the very bottom in the sample slots where you should have your material. Now I'm missing mine because this is a new slot. You will have the fireworks material you just created in the sample. You will select that. That will tell this event and those particles to use that material. So you can define, you can use several different materials on different parts of your fireworks if you'd like. Maybe green, red, blue. Again, it's your fireworks. Last but not least, you're going to see an icon here in a little bit called force. And when you drag a force in there, it's looking for space warps. Now, if you do by list, and again, because I'm working in a fresh scene with nothing in it, when you hit by list, you would see wind and gravity. And when my flowchart calls out for a force and it tells you it's gravity or wind, you'll be able to pick your gravity or your wind that's already in the scene. So, I'll have you go to it, give it a try, go ahead and maximize this, start dragging icons. You can move these around and organize them as you seem fit. If you accidentally need to move an icon, you can just go and drag them around. The sequence is really not going to be too important, but I think if you're following out my chart, you definitely want to do that, just so if you run into a problem, you can troubleshoot a lot easier. In the next video, we'll return, and hopefully you'll have everything set. I will simply go through and do a quick review of each step so that you can verify your settings with mine. Okay, we come back now to creating 3D fireworks in 3ds Max. At this point, if you watched the first video, it explained how to navigate through particle view, how to drop icons in, how to change the properties of the icons, how to link the events together, rename icons. And then of course I gave you a study guide, like a flow chart, that showed you once you select on that icon what properties need changed in order to make your fireworks. Once everything is linked and you hit play in your timeline, you should see something like this. You should see little plus signs that are kind of shooting up into space, and then we have dots exploding into various areas. Now, having control over a lot of detail here is you have to go in and tweak all those settings. But if you have something like this, you could change the seed and that'll shoot the fireworks off randomly in different directions and whatnot. Now what I'm going to do is open up my particle view, and I'm going to go ahead and select the particle system to do that. Open up modify, and you're going to see that I added a UVW map, and that's important. I didn't mention that last video, and I'll have to make sure I put that on the actual study guide, but your PF source will not accept the materials until you went in and gone under the modify list and found the UVW mapping add, and that will tell the particle system to accept that gradient material that we created. So we'll go ahead and consider that. Now you can go ahead and drop that in if you want. But as far as the particles moving, you should see that. If not, we have to troubleshoot. Okay, so now with the particle system selected, hit particle view, and you should have something that looks similar to this. If you follow my chart, it may not be in the exact order, the exact sequence, but everything should be linked correctly. And we're going to go ahead and begin by just looking at different sections here. We'll start off with event 01. Birth should be mid-start 25 and stop at 325 at amount of 10. Now that can be adjusted depending on the timeline. Position icon will be inherit emitter with a multiplier of 100 and volume. Speed 001 will have a speed of 100. No variation in there. Allow icon and a divergence of 10. Rotation will be set to speed space. Shape 001 is going to be a 20-sided sphere. We use 20 and not 80 because 80 is going to be more geometry. The size I have is 2, and that's going to vary depending on how big you want your fireworks to be, the distance and whatnot. So I'm using 2.0 on that size. Display 001 is at dots. Age test 01_1. It's going to be a particle age that is greater than test value. A test value of 50, a variation of 45. Next, age test 01_2 is going to have a particle age again is greater than a test value 85, and a variation of 45. Spawn 01 by travel distance. It's going to have a step of 5, an offspring of 6, a variation of 30, set at absolute time with a divergence down here of 16. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and slide over here, and we're going to look at event 2. Spawn 02 is set to once. We're going to go ahead and have an offspring of 60, a variation of 25, and that is also absolute time. Speed 02 is going to be set at a speed of 20, a variation of 5, and that'll be random 3D. Display 002 is dots. Material dynamic, I've located the red fireworks material that I created. Whatever you use will be great. The force was gravity. And you'll notice here that I have an influence of 50 on that. Delete 02 is going to delete by particle age. That's going to be a lifespan of 50 with a variation of 25. And the last part in that event is going to be the spawn. That's going to be set by travel with a step size of 3.5, an offspring of 1. We're going to have inherited selected down here at 5 with a variation of 3, a divergence of 20. And then down here under size variation, it's 50. Going to move event 2 out of the way, bring up event 3 so we can look at that. Event 3 starts with speed. Speed is going to be set to 5 with a variation of 5. We have a long icon arrow, tongue twister. The delete icon by age, that's going to be by particle age, with a lifespan of 60 and a variation of 10. Display is going to be dots up here in the type. We'll move 3 out of the way. I'm going to bring up 4 here so we can get a good look at it. Event 4 starts with a spawn. We have it set to once with a divergence of 16 down here. Speed 04 is going to be set to 40 for the speed, a variation of 5, and random 3D. Display will be dots for that action. Material dynamic, again, will be red fireworks or whatever material you created in your editor. Force, again, will be the gravity with another influence of 50. The delete, it's going to be by particle age with a lifespan of 50, a variation of 25. And the final action in that event is spawn 04, which will be a by travel distance with a step size of 3.5, an offspring of 1, inherited down here at 5, variation of that is 3, and a divergence of 20. We'll move event 5 up here so that we can get a look at that. Event 5 starts off with speed. Again, set at 5 with a variation of 5, and that's going to be a long icon arrow. Delete 05 by particle age is going to have a lifespan of 60 with a variation of 10, and our display will be dots. Finally, looking at event 6, we'll bring that up here and get a good look at it. Event 6 starts off with speed. The speed is 0 on that one. Now that's not a typo. We want it at 0. It's also going to be a long icon arrow. Underneath delete, by particle age once again, the lifespan now is 15 and the variation is 10. Material dynamic, of course, is going to be our red material or one that you've chosen. And the display will be ticks. And then with this all laid out, you'll start to get an idea of how these different events work. You can play around and remove some of them, and of course mine's a little offset now here, but if yours matches what mine does, then you should be getting the same results. I would take the time to go through again and double check everything with this video and the chart if something is not properly working here. But as you can see, I have that set and mine seems to be working. So hopefully this troubleshooting video will help you out. The last thing we want to do in this video is show you how to do a recap on how we go in and use video post to make our materials glow. Under rendering, you go to video post, and I have mine all set up here, and you can watch the video post if you want. Now I have 2 lens effect glows, and I'll tell you why in a moment, because I was trying to actually get 2 different materials to glow different colors. I wasn't successful there. But when you start off, you should always start off with your camera view. Select the little teal icon and tell either use perspective or camera view. Next, what you want to do is set your lens effect glow, and if you double click, once you open that up and do a setup, you want to make sure that the object ID and the effect ID numbers match the material ID number. So we're looking at this material here that I have the red fire, and you'll notice that the channel down here is set to 2. This number on that ID has to match this so that the glow knows what material to affect. I also went into my preferences. I cut my size down. You don't want your glow to be crazy glow. You just want to kind of look like the little individual pieces are glowing, but you want a high intensity so that they're nice and bright. And then, of course, once you're done, you have to set the image output event. That is sort of telling it where to render. Again, we're not rendering through the standard rendering. We're using Video Post to do the render. So you need to define, is it a JPEG or is it a video? When you click that, you'll hit Files. You'll designate where it goes, what it's called, what type of file it is. If it's going to be an animation, it has to be an AVI. If it's going to be a picture, use JPEG. Here I have a JPEG. Next thing that I can do here is go into the little running. I have to hit OK. Hit the little running guy, and that's going to ask me, do I want to do a single shot or do I want to do a range? Now, here's tricky. If you want to do a single shot, you hit single. You've got to put in what frame you want. If not, it's just going to render frame 0, and you won't see any fireworks because there's no fireworks in frame 0. Let me go ahead and hit close here real quick. I'm going to pick a nice shot here to try to give you guys maybe something on the lines of, we'll do something like, how about right there? We'll do a shot there at frame 207. So back in Video Post, I would hit the little running guy, yes, and under single I'll do 270 as my render frame and hit render. Now that goes through, it renders and it throws the glow on there. Now I can zoom my camera in. I could also cut down the size again on my Video Post settings because it does look like they're glowing a little bit. Let's do this. Let's try to zoom in a little bit here with the camera. Get a better look at that. Open up Video Post. Running guy. Yes. Render. Okay, so you can see how the color variations changing here. That is all up to you and what colors you want to use. Pink, green, purple, you name it. The glow will inherit that color and make that color glow. So you don't have to keep changing the color of the Video Post. You can just keep playing around with the different sequences. You could also do like some red fireworks and then change it to blue and maybe change your camera angle and then render the same fireworks in a different color and put those sequences in order in Premiere and make it look like there's more going on. Especially if you have a black background like this, you could actually go in and put a sky background, which would probably look kind of neat, and that'll add to the effects here as well. There are some other things you could play around with, not required for the project. You could create a series of small gizmos with fog in it, volume fog, and then you could keyframe those to react with the fireworks. Since the fireworks are particle driven, you can actually find them in space here. You can go in to the exact location of the spawn and create that gizmo and actually keyframe the fog, the smoky look after the fireworks shoots. You'd have a little bit of smoke. And there are so many things you can do with this here, and I'm just trying to hit the tip of the iceberg. So with that, we'll go ahead and cut you loose, and hope you enjoyed this independent project and hope you can use this with some of the other projects that you've been creating.